All right, welcome back. So we're going to do something kind of outside of the ordinary. In this class, we've been iOS, iOS, iOS. We're going to make a web app. We're not going to really write any code. We're just going to take code that somebody else wrote, Tyler in this case. We're going to modify it just a little bit so it's like specific to us, and then we're going to deploy it. The reason we're deploying it is just because it's a fun tool to work with, right? So we're going to make this website. So it just has your movie quotes, just like will be on your app. The thing that's nice about having them here is that it's kind of like the Forge, and that it's a way to see your data, but it also gives you the ability to kind of edit and delete them easily here. It also gives you that like free typing thing so that you can see it like change like for every keystroke you type. You don't have to have a web app. You definitely don't need to have a web app to make something that uses Firebase. I just think it's neat that you can, and that Firebase talks to all these different tools so synchronously. So I thought that we would just go to the trouble to set it up. Plus, you're a software developer. You should learn different tools a little bit. But you will be a little outside of your comfort zone if you haven't done much with the web. So we've got some starting code for you. So this is a GitHub repo that Tyler made. No need to check it out. You can just download the zip file and save it to an appropriate place on your computer. Once it's finished saving, you can go see it in Finder. If you want to click on Show in Finder, you can kind of see it there. Just go ahead and unzip it. It'll make a folder called, it's a rather lengthy name, Firebase MovieQuotes Firebase Solution. That's because you copied the solution repo. I personally don't like that big name, so I'm just going to call it MovieQuotes Web App. Great. Once I've unzipped the zip file, I no longer need the zip file. I've now just have got the contents, which are all that I need. So this is my web client right here. It consists of CSS. It consists of one HTML file, a fave icon, some JavaScript, things like that. You are going to have to make a small change in this file, and that is this app.js file. So you need to open this in some editor. I don't care what editor you use, but you will need to open it in some text editor. Here I've got a program called TextMate installed, so it was installed here. And if you find line 8, it says your username -movie -quotes. So just go ahead and type in your username into that file in some text editor, and that's all you need to do. You can save it just like that, and this name should actually match. If you were to go to your console, it should match what you've got up here. Oh, that reminds me, I'm doing this weird thing where I've added something onto the end of mine. So yeah, I had to add my 573AD, so don't worry about what I had to add for mine. So save it up and then close that. So at this point, you've got a web app. And what we want to do is we want to do some work in terminal to deploy that Firebase app. So I hit Command space and I just start typing in the word terminal, and it'll bring up a terminal. At some point, you're going to have to go to that folder, so you may as well do it now. The trick that I like is to hit CD space and then just drag the file over here, and it'll just take you there, which is great. So in this folder, what we're going to do is we're going to follow the instructions to deploy our web app. So there's a link in the slides, and I'll put a link above as well. Instructions to deploy the website. Didn't bother make instructions myself, just pointed you what Firebase is doing, because to be honest, things change, and I want you to have the latest there anyway. So the first thing that you should read and do is that you need to install the Firebase command line interface. I already have it installed, but you're going to have to type this npm install -g Firebase tools. Now, of course, in order to use npm, you have to have npm installed. So the first thing you should check is, do I have npm on this computer? So you can type npm version. If you type on yours npm version and it just says unknown command, you're going to have to install Node, right? And those instructions are right here too, which can be installed by following the instructions on nodejs.org. And it tells you when you install Node.js, one of the tools with Node.js is the Node Package Manager, NPM, right? So if you don't have NPM, you will have to install Node. And then you should be able to like type things like Node version and NPM version, and it should all just work, right? Once you've done those things, then you'll be ready to actually install your command line tools. So it's just, I can just copy it here and do it. So I've installed them before, but I guess there's really no harm in installing them again. It's actually a totally valid way to do an update, to just reinstall them. So now it's installed to the latest, which is great. And then after that, you need to initialize your app, so Firebase init. And I think this is so funny because all it does is it just adds a file too, right? Actually, it adds 2 files these days. So Firebase init. This one does need to be in that folder with the web app, right? So if I do an ls real quick, I can see that I'm in the folder with like my index.html. So Firebase init. And so what Firebase init will do is it'll ask you some questions. The first question is, do you want to use this just for hosting or just the database, or both? These little green circles are actually checkboxes. You can hit up and down arrow, just with your up and down arrows on your keyboard, and then you can do space to check or uncheck the boxes. So the database rules, I actually don't want those. I took care of the database actually on the website, right? So I don't need that. Hosting, yeah, that's why I'm here. So I make sure that that box is checked or that green circle is filled in. Then I hit enter. The next thing it does is, again, you have to use the up-down arrows. You have to figure out what app are you working with. So I'm going to work with Fisher DS MovieQuotes for mine. So I'm just going to hit enter on that. What directory do you want to be the public directory? In parentheses here, it's got the default. So if you just hit enter, it would like make a folder called public. We just want the current folder, which is a single dot. So just say dot and then hit enter. Configure it as a single page web app. This is non-applicable for us, so I don't even care. Just I'm gonna hit no just because I don't care. To be honest, I probably should have hit yes because I didn't care, but I hit no because I just don't care. Override that because it already exists. No, I do not want to override it. I can see I've got a capital N, which is the default, so I'm actually just going to hit enter to that as well. And you can see that what it did is it literally just made a total of 3 files, right? So it made this 404 page. So if somebody goes to a path other than the raw directory, they'll get a 404. It made this firebase.json. If you want to, you can open it up and look at it. I have so many different programs for text editors. This one's Visual Code Studio. So you can see that it's actually a very simple file, pretty meaningless. And then there's also a third file which is hidden. But if you want to see the hidden files, you can say ls-law. I discovered I don't need the H, so I left off the H. And you can see that it made this other file called Firebase RC. So if you wanted to look at it, you can type more, and then you can say Firebase RC. And you can see that what it did is it just has the default project, which is great. Cool. So all that just to do this simple step, Firebase init. Add a file we've already done. You've got a whole web app. You're ready to actually deploy this site. So if everything is working well, you should be able to type Firebase Deploy. And what that should do is that should actually deploy it to your website, which is kind of neat. You can also type Firebase Open, and it will actually ask you what do you want to open. Again, using the up-down arrow trick. You want to open hosting : deployed site. So I'm gonna hit enter on that one, and it should actually take you right there, right? So you can see that mine took me to Fisher DS MovieQuotes, my little add-on thing, FirebaseApp.com, and you can see that everything looks lovely. Cool. I can actually add a quote from here. So this will be a test from my web app. Hello world. And so I added it from the web app, and I should be able to see that got added in my forge area. So that's pretty neat. And you can see that it actually got an auto-generated key, unlike the ones that I hard-coded. Hard-coded ones actually work fine for us. They may be out of chronological order, but they work fine for what we're doing. Great, so I think that's what I was trying to accomplish. So we've got our web client up, we took care of all the node issues, and we can perform some CRUD methods. I guess if you wanted to, you could also do things like, edit and delete, go nuts, whatever you feel like doing, and you should be able to see all the changes get reflected inside your Forge database area. All right, that's all we got. We'll see you next time, where we kind of start setting up some more iOS project things. See you then. Bye.